So this is obviously a very real threat, a very much an ongoing threat as well. How concerned should we be in this country?
Well, we live in an interconnected world, and things that happen on the other side of the world very quickly happen and interject with our lives in the UK. And of course, what we've seen over the last few days is the fact that Hamas and the Palestinians have a huge number of supporters in the UK. Most will support Palestine, but of course there are extremes, and we know that extremes in this country can very quickly turn to becoming terrorists, and we've seen the results of that in Manchester and other locations across the UK.
And just in terms of that, I think people are pretty frightened about what is going on. Obviously, we saw the protest in favour of Palestinian people, and we obviously have to make a differentiation between the Palestinian people and Hamas, a proscribed terrorist organisation. That being said, I heard from many people over the weekend saying they were simply so frightened to go anywhere near it because of the behaviour erupting on Britain's streets, not just in London.
Yeah, and not just in Britain either, you know, right across Europe. There are an enormous number of people that have left those countries and now reside in the UK and in other countries. And many of them have pretty extreme views. And we know for a fact that there's 20-odd thousand people that are a real concern to the on the terrorism watch list. And of course, ISIS and Hamas really are two sides of the same coin. And I think we should be concerned. The head of MI5 there is saying that that there are a significant number of people to worry about. And I can anticipate that the threat levels are likely to go up in the next days and weeks ahead.
Well, so you mentioned that. In fact, McCallum went on to say the threat from Iran could intensify. It went on to say that MI5 had foiled 15 Tehran-linked plots aimed at dissidents and media organisations. As you say, obviously, the security level is kept under constant review by JTAC. What makes you think it might go up?
Well, I think just the sheer nervousness around the incidents that we're seeing played out in Israel and in the Gaza Strip. Emotions are very high, quite rightly. You can understand on both sides how difficult this must be. But of course, people are living side by side in the UK. In London, you know, there are many Israelis, many Jews, and many people who support the Palestinians and Hamas. So these are concerns. There are also a very large number of people who are already considered to be on the terrorism watch list. And if any of those, just one of those, decides to go and do something, then of course we could pay the penalty. So it's right what he says, and I think for a start, this is always under review, but particularly now it's a time when tensions are at their height.
And he went on to say that just in terms of the way people operate, that potential terrorists are incredibly creative about what they're trying to do and the way they're trying to disrupt this country. He says it never loses the power to sicken me, and of course the role of MI5 is absolutely crucial in terms of this. Now, at the same time, we do believe in the right to have freedom of speech in this country, and that is a very fine line, isn't it? You've also got a lot of people saying, well, actually, what happened at the Cenotaph, for example, was simply unacceptable. You basically had protests, you had policemen's helmets on the Cenotaph. This is a sacred place. This commemorates the fallen people in the war. And, of course, there is real concern about these marches in support of freedom turning very ugly.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fine to support the Palestinian cause. I don't think there's an issue. You know, there are very many people across the UK and across the world would support that. It's the Hamas side of it that causes a concern. They are a terrorist group. And of course, people flick over from one to the other. Some people not even realising the differential. But Hamas are a terrorist organisation, and we need to remember that. And yes, you know, if you allow demonstrations, it's very difficult to stop demonstrations for the Palestinian cause. But of course, that's going to also have the extremes within it as well. And those extremes are very dangerous people.
Very good to talk to you, Chris. Thank you very much indeed. Chris Phillips there, former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office.